Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here. Today we're talking about the Steam Machine and the Steam Deck because Valve published a very strange statement last night that has people kind of thinking that the Steam Machine very likely is going to be delayed. It's going to cost over $1,000 and very likely it may be outright canceled even though it was announced. And the reason why is because Valve just said officially they can't make any more Steam Decks. That there is just not enough computer parts on the planet to make more Steam Decks, and this is basically the parts that are going into a Steam machine. And I want to talk about this because I'm a big believer in the Valve push into hardware, mostly because there really isn't truly a fully independent space in the hardware gaming market. Whether you're talking about PC parts, Nvidia and stuff, or even, of course, consoles, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, these companies are all publicly traded. They have stock options and investor boards and all these like old dudes in suits who determine everything about it. Part of what makes the Steam Deck and the Steam Machine so cool to me is that this thing rocks purely because Valve wants it to be good, right? They're not really doing this for any other reason. They think it's cool that you can play Elden Ring literally on a handheld, that you can put in mods and customizations or reshell it. You can put emulators. You can put freaking Linux on this thing, right? I do think that there is a raw importance to the Steam Machine and the Steam Deck even existing, and it sounds like maybe they're running out of road. This tech shortage worldwide is going to hit Valve first because they don't have that trillions of dollars these other companies have to make those hard investments and basically buying chip factories for future production. But let's discuss. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So last night, a lot of people started noticing that on the Valve website, it started to say Steam Decks are out of stock. Now, not just in the US, worldwide. They said straight up, we can't ship it to you. You can't pre-order it. You can't get a tag in on the next batch. There are no Steam Decks. Per Valve, Steam Deck OLED may be out of stock intermittently in some regions due to memory and stock shortages. And then they clarified that they're out worldwide. They added a note clarifying Steam Decks are currently out of stock due to the shortages of memory and storage. It doesn't look good for Steam machines. Now, the thing is that the Steam Machine is, of course, not one-to-one parts, obviously different styles of parts, but the Steam Machine is about 6 times more powerful than the Steam Deck. In a lot of ways, it seems like there's a lot of overlap in production. It did seem like they're sort of like the supply lines that are making the Steam Decks are the people that are making the Steam Machines. And it seems like maybe they're just realizing that hopefully this means they're trying to use their limited resources to sort of free up those Steam Machine parts. But I'll admit that the fact that they're having to stop selling the Steam Deck completely, this to me is massive, massive, massive alarm bells. The Steam Deck, in my opinion, is one of the greatest pieces of tech that has been made in the last 20 years. And I've talked about this in other videos. I was never really a big PC gamer. I've always very much liked the console experience. You pop in a disc, the controllers auto update, everything works instantly, right? If the game crashes, it automatically sends a bug report. It's super, super plug and play easy. The Steam Deck won me over in such a big way to not just using Steam, but just to the ease of use of PC gaming. Auto cloud saves, the fact that I can just dock this and play it on my TV, the fact that it automatically recognizes any controller, right? I do think that there is an importance to the Steam Deck, to the entirety of gaming, and the fact that it's just gone because of these shortages, I think that at the very least, I bet Valve is starting to say, maybe we shouldn't do the Steam Machine, right? Because it's pretty obvious the point of the Steam Deck was to lead into the Steam Machine. Hey, all right, you've probably got a PC, you're probably going to have a Steam Machine as a sort of like fun hybrid console version of Steam, and then of course your Steam Deck for playing Steam on the go, right? The fact that this is gone, a lot of people are starting to say, the Steam Deck is probably in a bad spot. So people are talking here. So we've added a note, Steam Deck's out of stock. People are like, oh man, with all this RAM stuff going on, because I might have to pull the trigger and just grab a Steam Deck immediately. Well, I called this back in December. Valve legitimately does not have the Steam Deck in stock anymore. Absolutely insane. A lot of people are just pointing out the fact that this is probably going to get a lot worse. You may be aware of the bad news concerning RAM shortages. GPUs are in short supply, solid states are in short supply, and 4 times the price they were last year, and hard drive manufacturers are sold out for the rest of the year, with shortages expected until 2028. Now, this is one part I kind of wanted to highlight. This might be a bit of a lie. Part of the problem with these like publicly traded companies is sometimes they stuff that isn't really true, right? I mean, Xbox lies a lot. Xbox talks about the profitability of Game Pass while at the same time saying they're super deep underwater because of Game Pass, right? But my point here is the fact that these companies are probably saying, wow, everybody wants to just pre-order every single one of our storage drives. Invest. We're the most profitable company on the planet. This is probably a little BS, but I wouldn't be surprised if everything is sold out until at least 2027, which is wild because it's February 2026. What happens if that really is happening, right? What if Valve didn't get a chance to set up those deals, set up those contracts, really put in their bids for this chips and the storage, and they simply can't even physically make the Steam machine until 2027? What happens then, right? I think it's terrifying we even have to ask that question. Oh my gosh. Valve breaks its silence on the Steam Deck OLED scarcity, and yes, it is because of the RAM shortage issue. Thanks, AI. All you slop accounts are a disease. Here in Europe, it's out of stock too. So yeah, a lot of people are like, man, this is just it. Can the AI bubble pop already? Everybody is discussing this because it is going to trickle down. Things keep getting worse alongside the PlayStation 6 and the Switch 2 news. This is something we reported on yesterday, which is that there have now been leaked talks that internally Sony and Nintendo are starting to sort of say, okay, how are we going to do with this? Like Sony has released statements that currently they have enough storage, but what happens when they run out of the current stuff, right? If a PlayStation 5 costs $550, but the raw parts cost them $450, they can keep that price at $550, right? But what happens when suddenly those raw parts cost $700 or $800? They just as a company can't afford to make it at the same price. I understand those price increases like on a paper level, like already apparently there's a lot of talks they're talking about increasing the cost of the Nintendo Switch 2, which in my opinion is already too expensive. But what happens if this just hits everything? Like what happens if, like, part of the reason I was so excited for the Steam machine is that I liked the idea of a third path, right? Here's the console experience. You know, that's pretty cheap in a lot of ways. Here's the PC experience, which is more expensive, but way more customizable, way more online multiplayer, way more interesting stuff that makes it your true experience, even from the ability that you can build your own PC, but it's more expensive. I always thought that part of the appeal of the Steam machine to me was the fact that it was this third separate path, a cheap entryway into hardcore PC gaming. And now that's just vanished. Even crappy products that aren't really selling, like the ROG Ally X, which is sort of like the souped up version of a Steam machine, basically double the price for about 40% more power, even they are now doing a giant price increase in certain parts of the world. And it's just making me think that this is because of those shortages. This is a thing that makes me think, what happens if they have to come out and say, hey, we actually can't make the Steam machine? It's a very, very bleak time. I am still in the space, personally, where I truly, truly believe the AI bubble is going to pop. There are so many people now, even a lot of people at the top of like NVIDIA and stuff, who are sort of saying that betting the entire world economy on this $1 trillion plagiarism machine, something that's stealing all data, that's supposed to basically replace all art and all employees. Like the promises of AI are so ridiculously ambitious that it's exciting investors, but I just truly don't think it's going to keep up. All these worldwide server farms and all this new infrastructure and the raw strain on power grids. Maybe I'm too focused on the gaming window of this, but it just feels like AI cannot really be handled by the world. Like they're trying to rebuild the entirety of society to fit this narrative of these bots. When I think a lot of people more and more are saying, I don't want to have triple the power bill. I don't want to pay triple the price for games. I don't want to pay triple the price of everything for more AI slop. And I think this pushback is going to hit a point where when the bubble pops, I hope we see a significant and immediately price drop. I have said this before, and I will say it again. If they can get the Steam machine to under $400 somehow, it's going to take over the planet. The Steam machine has the potential to be bigger than even the Nintendo Switch 1 was. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts. How do you feel about the Steam Machine? How do you feel about AI? And how do you feel about the future of video games? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. All right, I got to go build an exercise bike. I bought a really crappy exercise bike, and it has like 8 billion parts. And I opened it this morning. I was like, I'm going to build this exercise bike and then eat breakfast. And then I spent about an hour on it and went, okay, let me work on the videos and then make the exercise bike after work. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.